Tonight, parents' fears over their children getting safely to school as a council cuts school bus services, leaving some to walk alongside unlit 60-mile-per-hour roads.
Kids are going to die trying to get an education. It's just completely unsafe.
Also making the headlines, the First Minister says no more meetings with Israel until they end the war in Gaza.
Another loss in the High Street. Ted Baker closes its doors in Glasgow's Buchanan Street as the chain shuts its remaining 31 stores with a loss of 500 jobs. And in sport, English Premier League side Brighton bid for the Celtic midfielder Matt O'Reilly.
I'm Kellyanne Woodland in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. A parent has told STV News she's worried her daughter's life could be put in danger when cuts to school bus services in South Lanarkshire come into force. The changes mean that from next year, children who live within 3 miles of their secondary school will need to walk or find their own transportation. In some cases, that means crossing motorway slip roads and walking alongside unlit 60-mile-per-hour roads.
South Lanarkshire Council refused to answer questions on the plans and declined to walk one proposed route with STV News. They say where plans have been deemed safe, they'll work with schools to review travel plans and consider any actions that could lessen the impact on families. Well, our reporter Ollie Dickinson has been to see one such route.
Trudging to school with bags, instruments, coats and kits alongside a busy main road. This is the future for some Lesmahago High School pupils. Under new plans, they'll be asked in rain or shine, snow or hail to walk along this route. In some places, they have to cross the busy M74 slip road.
Last week there was 2 accidents within 2 hours on this motorway slip road that our kids are going to have to walk past. And that was cars coming right off the motorway and across a path that has been deemed allegedly safe by South Lanarkshire Council. So kids are going to die trying to get an education. It's just completely unsafe.
We want our buses back! We want our buses back!
Parents say the new route is being forced upon them by changes to school buses. From next year, only children who live more than 3 miles from their catchment school will be eligible for a bus. It used to be 2. For Lesmahago High, that means some pupils living in Blackwood and Kirkmuirhill now face a near 6-mile round trip each day.
We're a very rural area. It's a very dangerous road you're having to walk. You can see there's an awful lot of cars. It's a 60-mile-an-hour road. It's also the official diversion for the M74 northbound and southbound. If there's any issues, whether it's planned maintenance or accidents or flooding, all the cars are coming through. There's no traffic lights at any point. The kids are having to cross over multiple slip roads to be able to follow the route to school.
The road isn't lit, so there's no street lighting there. It's narrowest points. It's maybe 1.5 metres wide, 2 metres at the most. There's a section that's barriered up there, but only a small section. The rest of it's open. And kids being kids, not concentrating, could have a laugh, and you're terrified that an accident could happen.
Their concerns are backed up by crash data from the road. A Freedom of Information request seen by STV News shows between 2020 and 2023, there were 13 accidents along the route. 11 of them left people in hospital. 2 people were killed. South Lanarkshire Council's own consultation on the changes received overwhelming criticism, with some comments raising concerns about safety, calling the plans ludicrous, shameful and unreasonable. The council refused to answer questions on camera with STV News. They also declined our invitation to walk the 3-mile route pupils could be expected to take. A spokesman said, the decision will bring South Lanarkshire Council into line with most other Scottish councils. They said during their consultation they had identified a number of requests for assessments of walking routes, which they will progress as quickly as possible before any final decisions are taken. Where it is deemed that a route is not safe, free transportation will continue. Those assessments, though, can't come soon enough for parents who say they are terrified for what next year could mean for the safety of their children as they try to get to school. Ollie Dickinson, STV News.
External Affairs Secretary Angus Robertson is apologising for his handling of a meeting with the Israeli Deputy Ambassador last week. The First Minister says there will be no more meetings with Israeli representatives until they end the war in Gaza.
It comes after a row engulfed the SNP over the meeting. Our political editor Colin Mackay has been speaking to the First Minister. So Colin, what's John Swinney been saying?
Well, the Scottish Parliament, as you can see, is set up for the festival of politics, but in the SNP, it's not so much a festival feeling as absolute fury over this meeting. Now, while I was waiting to interview the First Minister in Bute House this afternoon, Mr Robertson put out a statement apologising for not making it clear that he challenged the Israeli Deputy Ambassador on the war and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza when they met last week. Now, the impression then was that it had been a routine meeting. The Deputy Ambassador said that they had been talking about technology, culture and renewable energy, and that sparked fury within the SNP, with MSPs and other senior figures attacking the meeting and calling for the Minister to be sacked.
The points of opposition to what Israel had been doing in Gaza were delivered directly, and there was absolutely no mistaking the strength, the vehemence of the position of the Scottish Government in opposition to what Israel is doing in Gaza. It has to be acknowledged, though, and that is what I'm apologising for, that the impression is being created of a normalisation in relations between the Scottish Government and Israel. There isn't, and we will not be meeting until a ceasefire is in place.
The way the meeting has emerged, and it looks like there is an almost normalisation of relations between Scotland and Israel, is not the way it should look. And I'm sorry that that's how that looks. And that's what Angus Robertson has said today. He's apologised for the impression that's been created by that discussion. But fundamentally, the discussion was about putting to the Israeli government the opposition that we feel to their activities in Gaza.
So he got it wrong, he's apologised. Do you think he needs to resign?
No, I don't, because I think we've got to accept that some things are embarked upon with the best of intentions, and the best of intentions here was to set out the opposition of the Scottish Government to the approach being taken by Israel in the conflict in Gaza.
So no sacking, no resignation, and there'll be no more meetings with the Israelis. But this could still be and still will be pretty uncomfortable for the SNP leadership. They've got their conference at the end of this month. There is actually a motion to suspend Angus Robertson, potentially coming up at that conference, to suspend him from the party.
And Colin, news about the Drugs Minister, Christina McKelvey, tonight.
Christina McKelvey stepping back from her frontline job as Drugs Minister to undergo treatment for secondary breast cancer. She'll be taking leave to focus on her treatment and her recovery. Now, Health Secretary Neil Gray will take over and deal with drugs death statistics which are being published tomorrow. But in 2021, Christina McKelvey rang the bell at the Beatson to mark the end of her treatment. Now she's back again for more.
We wish Christina McKelvey well. Colin, thank you.
Now, just a warning, there are some flashing images in this next story. In the Scottish Conservative leadership contest today, Russell Finlay launched his campaign pitching unity. He said they will not turn inwards if he wins the leadership, rejecting calls to split from the larger UK party. Just now, there are 6 candidates. That number might come down if some can't get the 100 signatures to secure their place in the final race by Thursday.
Myself and many of my MSP colleagues who've supported my campaign, we are quite disappointed. We don't want to see infighting. The public aren't remotely interested in infighting. If anything, it's going to turn people off at such a critical time when we need to be coming together and rebuilding. So if I do get the job, I know that the very first thing I need to do is try and bring the group together and repair some of that damage.
The third phase of the long-running public inquiry into patient safety at Scotland's largest hospital is underway. Families who've already given their evidence say 4 years is an inordinate length of time to wait to reach this stage.
Witnesses over the next 14 weeks will include infection control doctors, contractors and whistleblowers as the focus of the inquiry shifts back to the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital and Royal Hospital for Children in Glasgow. Here's our chief reporter, Sharon Frew.
This public inquiry began in 2019 promising to shine a light on whether the water and ventilation systems at this multi-million-pound hospital campus were unsafe. It was launched after a number of patients died. Evidence has already been taken from the families of young people who developed infections while undergoing cancer treatments. Professor John Cudahy and his daughter Molly shared their experience in October 2021.
It's still got a fair bit to go, and when you add to that the point at which this incident happened in 2018, that's 7 years, and we're still living with it, still dealing with the trauma of it, the psychology of it, the mental failings in relation to it, and giving evidence is difficult for everybody to take.
Thousands of pages of documents will be scrutinised over the next 14 weeks to examine what actions were taken by those responsible for ensuring that the risks were not only identified but also managed correctly.
How does Legionella get into a water supply in a building?
For the hospital and that, we would expect it to be washed in through the mains water.
The first witness to be called was a Legionella and water hygiene specialist who detailed the red flags raised with NHS officials, including cold water storage temperatures and the associated bacterial risks of stagnant supplies. David Watson said these issues were first raised in April 2015 when the campus first opened, and that he was unaware of medics' concerns about the hospital's environment until 3 years later.
There seems to be a measure of concern. You weren't aware of that at the time?
It was never brought directly to us. I say the first I knew that the microbiologists on infection control were concerned was there was a BBC documentary about the hospital, and we saw it at that time.
The witness told the inquiry the hospital's water system is now very tightly managed and undergoes extensive sampling. These are not the only proceedings that NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde face. It's launched legal action against the contractors who built the hospital complex, and a corporate homicide investigation is ongoing. Both the police and the Crown Office say it would be inappropriate to comment at this stage on a live investigation. This latest phase of the public inquiry is expected to last until November. Sharon Frew, STV News at the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital in Glasgow.
To other stories around Scotland, and a scheme to give asylum seekers free bus travel has been scrapped. The Scottish Government had previously planned to have a nationwide pilot up and running by the end of this year, but the initiative has been ditched due to budget constraints. Refugee support groups say they're extremely disappointed by the news.
Landlords have increased private sector rents by an average of 20% since the emergency laws ended in April. Rents should only be raised by a maximum of 12%, but property owners can make it more if it's not challenged by the tenants. Data obtained by Scottish Labour found only 900 households challenged increases within 3 months.
Tenants would be intimidated in certain instances to challenge that, and that's because there's things that can happen. You can spontaneously be told by your landlord they're going to sell, so then you could be evicted. You don't know if you're being evicted because you've challenged it. There's no way of knowing that, and there's no consequences for the landlord of doing that.
Rangers have issued indefinite bans to 4 supporters after a St Johnstone fan was attacked and robbed of a drum at Hampden. A 51-year-old woman was assaulted during the incident before the League Cup tie at the weekend. Meanwhile, a 22-year-old man appeared in court earlier accused of possessing a stolen drum and was ordered not to attend the club's games. Aaron Watt made no plea to the charge.
And a learner driver who killed 3 of his friends by crashing his car while speeding has been jailed. Ian Cannon, Finlay Johns and Tyler Johnston were all 16 at the time of the crash in Dumfries in 2022. 19-year-old Jake Loy has been sentenced to 4 years and 8 months behind bars. He's also been disqualified for driving for 8 years.
Let's focus on stories in the West now, and 2 men have appeared in court in connection with the assault and robbery of a man in Glasgow's East End. The 28-year-old was injured and taken to hospital following the incident on Springfield Road. Both a 40-year-old James Carter and a 17-year-old male made no plea at Glasgow Sheriff Court. While investigating the assault, police discovered a body in the flat. Officers are treating the incidents as linked. All of Ted Baker's remaining UK shops are set to close this week, putting more than 500 jobs at risk. The store in Glasgow's Buchanan Street has already closed its doors, joining the 15 sites that had to shut in April after the business behind the fashion brand fell into administration. This latest raft of closures comes just 2 years after a £211 million takeover by the American firm Authentic Brands Group, as Caitlin Hutchison reports.
It's been a well-known brand across the UK for the past 4 decades. But changing consumer habits and competition have brought luxury retailer Ted Baker to its knees. Now, more than 500 jobs are at risk and its stores set to disappear from high streets.
It's another one, bites the dust.
I must admit, I was quite surprised when I seen it on the news. I thought they were doing quite well, you know.
Well, it's a shame all the kind of well-known brands seem to be disappearing.
When I was in buying stuff the other day and it was all the actual fitments, dressing room curtains they were selling off.
Shame though, because, you know, it was lovely clothes and nice to buy for occasions.
Yes.
I actually wore a Ted Baker dress to your daughter's wedding in Sorrento, so there you go.
This is a bit of a death of the high street shops, and you know it's all going to be shifting online, you can almost assume.
It began as a menswear brand in 1988 and opened its first shop here in Glasgow, soon growing to have sites right across the UK and the United States. But in 2019, the brand's founder, Ray Kelvin, was forced to resign amid allegations of misconduct, which he denied. And in March this year, the firm behind Ted Baker's UK shops fell into administration, forcing the closure of 15 sites and the loss of hundreds of jobs. Experts say there's a range of factors behind its demise, including the mismanagement of the Ted Baker brand.
Without that strong vision from Kelvin, a lack of investment, innovation, investment in the design, particularly if you think about a post-COVID world, I think it's a lesson for larger corporations, given the competition that they experience now online and in store. I think that they need to be a bit more savvy.
Rescue talks with Fraser Group are understood to have stalled, and Ted Baker becomes the latest high street casualty, another blow for bricks and mortar retail. Caitlin Hutchison, STV News.
Alan's here with the sport. Now, the football season has started, but still time for teams to change with the transfer market still open.
Absolutely, John. Just under 2 weeks to go before the transfer window closes. There's been plenty of interest in Celtic midfielder Matt O'Reilly, interest from the Serie A, and today an English Premier League club has come to the table with a concrete offer.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Summer Sale.
Good evening. Yes, Celtic have received a bid from Brighton for Matt O'Reilly. The midfielder, who joined the champions 2.5 years ago, has 3 years remaining on his contract. O'Reilly had also attracted interest from Atalanta, and now the English Premier League side have made their move for the 23-year-old. Brendan Rodgers has stated the club would only consider selling O'Reilly if their valuation is met. Now, after Spartans defeated Ross County 1-0 to reach the quarter-finals of the League Cup, the League Two side say they'll not be making up the numbers when they face Aberdeen at Pittodrie in the last 8. The other shock in the Cup was at the Falkirk Stadium, where the Bairns knocked out Hearts. John McGlynn's side have been drawn away to Celtic in the quarter-finals. On the left, the goal that secured Spartans' place in the quarter-finals of the League Cup. On the right, Dylan Tate scoring Falkirk's second in their 2-0 win over Hearts. The Bairns' reward is a last 8 tie away to Celtic, while Spartans, who play in the 4th tier, face a trip to Pittodrie.
We're confident we've gone into all the games with a game plan. We work hard in training. It's no fluke that we're here in the quarterfinals. I think we've merited the results that we've got, and we're not going just up there to go and take part and just be happy to be there. We want to go and put an impression, put a stamp in our game. And no, look, as I mentioned there, the odds do stack against us, but there's always that small chance, isn't there?
At Celtic Park, no Kyogo, no problem. Daisen Maeda, playing as a striker in the absence of his international teammate, gives Celtic a 2-goal lead against Hibs after just 16 minutes.
It's got to be on the goalkeeper. What a wonderful finish!
David Gray's side reduced the deficit by 1 through Mikola Kukaravic. But not for the first time this season, Hibs gifted their opponents a goal. Neither Marvin Ekpiteta or Joseph Busick covered themselves in glory. Nicholas Kuhn took advantage, 3-1. At Hampden, as Rangers hosted St Johnstone, referee Matthew McDermott had ruled out Cyril Dessers' strike on the hour mark for a foul on Jack Sanders. Following a VAR check, the goal was given. The Saints were angered by the decision, claiming McDermott had blown his whistle before Dessers' shot. In the second minute of added time, Ross McCausland made sure of Rangers' place in the quarter-finals.
What a calm finish from Ross McCausland.
The holders will be back at Hampden to host Dundee in the quarter-finals after they thrashed Airdrieonians 6-1. At Fir Park, Motherwell edged out 10-man Kilmarnock 1-0 thanks to Moses Ibe's goal in extra time. They'll entertain Dundee United in the last 8 after they defeated St Mirren 1-0 at Tannadice.
We have to reset ourselves. The boys need some days off, so they'll have days off this week in preparation for a difficult task on Sunday, obviously. But we'll go in a lot fresher in that game. As you say, hopefully we have a few more bodies back.
And Queen's Park looked to be taking their tie against Aberdeen into extra time until the hosts struck in the 92nd minute. Partick Thistle women's manager Brian Graham has hit out after one of his players, Courtney Stewart, had to wait 3 hours for an ambulance after suffering a head injury during the league match against Rangers yesterday, branding this unacceptable. The midfielder was treated on the pitch by medical staff after suffering a seizure. The club posted this picture on social media last night, saying Stewart had been given the all-clear following CT scans and X-rays. The Scottish Ambulance Service has apologised for the delay. To rugby, and Fraser Brown admits it wasn't easy to retire from playing, but is relishing his new role as a coach with the Scotland women's team. The former Glasgow Warriors hooker, who earned 61 caps for Scotland, called time in his career in the summer before being appointed forwards coach.
It's not nice retiring, but there's always the next part of your journey. So, yeah, it was probably tough right at the start, but then the more I knew where I wanted to go post-playing, sort of the more exciting it became. So, you know, it didn't turn into one of those end-of-the-road type of things. It was just, how can I use this to then go into what I want to do next?
And that, folks, is all of your sport tonight. I'll see you again tomorrow.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Summer Sale.
It's not looking that good with the weather in the coming days. Here's Sean to tell us more.
A dry start to the day will become increasingly splashy. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Very good evening to you. We're almost plunged into the depths of October this week. We've got an awful lot of rain to come. We've got strong winds at times and also cool as well. So very, very autumnal. But the main story of this week will be the extreme rainfall, especially Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. And those deep shades of pink that are coming in the map, these are areas where I expect we could get about 150 to almost 200 millimetres of rain falling through the course of this week. The likes of Clyde Muirshiel, the hills of Arran and also widely across parts of Argyll and Bute and the Highlands, likes of Knoydart, Kintail, Loch Shiel and around Loch Awe here will be the wettest spots through this week, so an awful lot of rain to come. Today we've had plenty of rain, the rain turning a bit more showery as we go through the night, temperatures about 10 degrees Celsius. Now tomorrow won't be relentless rain, for many of us at least to start the day. It's sunshine and scattered showers, but those showers will get more and more frequent during the afternoon, merging into longer spells of rain I expect, perhaps across likes of Argyll and Bute and also the Highlands, and breezy as well. In that breeze, those temperatures feeling rather cool with tops about 13-14 degrees Celsius. In the showers, the blustery wind, it will be feeling cool. The weather really going downhill though. On Thursday we're going to see gale force winds developing across the Hebrides and heavy rain spreading in from the west and staying very wet through Thursday too. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And finally, have you heard the one about the comedian who has won the award for the funniest joke at the Edinburgh Fringe?
Mark Simmons topped a poll voted on by the public for his one-liner about a sailing trip. Here's Gordon Cree.
Arriving to a hero's welcome at his show venue this afternoon, this is Mark Simmons, winner of the You and Dave Funniest Joke of the Fringe. And here it is.
I was going to sail around the globe in the world's smallest ship, but I bottled it.
What do you think of it?
I think his jokes are great. I like all his jokes. I just love the fact that they're all one-liners.
I really liked it. I've seen it on his reels beforehand and I thought it was a really good one. So yeah, really proud that he's won it.
You see him all over online on TikTok and Instagram, and it's sort of cultivating everything that he comes across as. It's perfect for him, I think.
I love one-liners. I think it's the way my brain works. So when I'm walking around, I spot wordplay and then I'll write it on my phone and then create the jokes. But also, when I was younger, I didn't like talking in front of people. So I feel like my natural reaction is to get as many laughs as possible, as quick as possible. So the shortest the joke, the better. I could tell you that it's a true story and I was going to sail around the globe in the world's smallest ship, but I wasn't. What happened was I probably just spotted someone saying the phrase, I bottled it. And then in my head I was like, because I always jump to the double meaning straight away. So then I was like, you can bottle things, can't you? So I might have thought, does it work with wine as a joke? And that doesn't really work both sides of the joke. And then I just like, oh yeah, the ship's in the bottle. So then, yeah, just sort of constructed it like that.
Well, now he's officially been named the Fringe's finest. The queues to see Mark are getting ever bigger. And if you want to see for yourself, he's on at the Liquid Rooms Annex every afternoon.
And it's a lot of one-liners, but also crowd interaction. So I'll ask someone for a topic, they give me a topic, I do a joke about it, and we have lots of fun.
And who knows, maybe that will inspire next year's winning line. Gordon Cree, STV News, Edinburgh.
So there you go, it's all about a good one-liner. But anyway, John, we're back working together. Did you miss me?
Probably as much as you missed me. How about that?
Oh, that much? Nice.
Good night.